AG Sports. Thanks for tuning in. Today, guys, as always on Monday, we're going to go over the recap from the picks last week. Not a great week. Not too terrible. Shouldn't be in the poorhouse if you're following the picks, but obviously not one of our best ones. So let's get started with that, and then we'll move on to this week's picks and maybe some picks that have already been made for the week. So as far as last week's picks go, obviously they're not on here, but let's start with the bad. So we had Patriots Texans under 41. That game should have gone our way. There's no other way to say that. It kind of pisses me off that it didn't, especially when you look at that first drive by the Texans. I don't know how many of you actually watched that game, but one of the reasons for this pick and one of the reasons I felt very confident in this pick is that Davis Mills had not been able to do a damn thing with the Texans all season long, at least, all season that he's been playing. And, of course, and it's our turn to actually make this pick for this week, he somehow scrounges together a scoring drive in his first drive, the first one he's done, or the first scoring drive he's had to open the game, all year long. And what happened here was, did he play better? Were the receivers better? Did they have a better, play calling? What was it? Well, if we're being truthful, I have to give some credit to David Culley, their head coach, for being a little bit more aggressive on fourth down. They went for it on like 2 or 3 fourth downs to open the game. Their first drive, and one of them was like from the 40, and it was times where I was like, oh, okay, great, they held them. We're good. We're on track here, and they went for it and they got those fourth downs. So that obviously doesn't help issues, and it goes against what I was thinking he was gonna do, because all season long they had been a pretty conservative team, especially to open the game, to try and maybe keep Davis Mills kind of on the safe side. So they went off script there, and that kind of screwed us over. But more importantly was the penalties. The Patriots just kept shooting themselves in the foot. If you watch that game, every single time it was like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, hold, pass interference, hold, offsides, and it was just like they could not get off the damn field. The first third down, it was like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 7, and Mark Ingram runs the ball, and it looks like they maybe stopped him shy, maybe like a half a yard shy of the first down, but the refs gave him the first down anyways, and they even zoomed in on Bill to see if maybe like Belichick was going to throw the challenge flag and see if he was going to challenge the spot. But the game had just started. It was like maybe a minute into the game. And he decided, nah, I'm just going to let it go. We'll stop him again. And guess what? They couldn't stop him. After that, they just could not get off the field for one reason or another. And then when they would get him to fourth down, and like 4th and 2, like I said, the Texans kept going for it. And they ended up in a touchdown. And the rest of the first half was really just kind of more of the same. It was a lot of like little dink and dunk stuff, pretty much what we expected them to do. A lot of horizontal play and a lot of running up the middle with the Texans, and the Patriots, kind of stifling it, like not giving up a bunch of big plays, but just not being able to get off the field. And so even though it was taking a long time to score, the fact is the Texans kept scoring. And the Patriots just were looking really flat. So the Patriots were kind of helping us out just in the sense that they were being a really slow team themselves and not scoring. But anyways, because all these penalties, because they couldn't get off the field, and because they were just giving up touchdowns instead of making them settle for field goals or punts, it goes to 47 is the final score. Even if that first drive goes a little bit different, I'm convinced this thing ends at 40 and we get the win. But whatever, doesn't matter. Didn't happen. We lost that one. The next one is another loss, and this is actually the one I felt most confident about, and this one just went totally off script here. It was the Browns and Chargers under 48.5, and if you heard me talk about this one, I kept saying this is the one I felt really confident about. This is the one I felt best about. The game started the way I thought it was going to be. Sorry, the Browns and Chargers, not Broncos. A lot of running. Nick Chubb run. Chargers were passing left and right, very conservative, the way we thought. And the end of the first quarter, I think, was 7-3. I was like, okay, we're right where we're supposed to be. This is pretty much what I expected. Game plan is going the way we thought. Everything looks good so far. Second quarter comes. Defenses just keep breaking down on both sides. The Browns defense, it was like their secondary just kept letting Mike Williams get loose. I want to say at least 3 of the touchdowns that the Chargers had were just off of broken coverages where Mike Williams was just wide open, like 40, 50 yards down the field, and Herbert was just hitting these passes. And, I mean, it wasn't like, hey, it was a contested pass or maybe there was a broken tackle, and it just, no, he was, like, wide open. Or if he wasn't wide open, like if there was somebody covering him, he had, like, 5-6 steps on the guy. And one of them, actually, the very first one that Mike Williams catches, the corner just literally gives up. Like, after he catches the ball, the corner just stops running. And you see Mike Williams just kind of run. It's like a 30-yard run where he's just, like, not being followed. Nobody's pursuing him. He gets in for the touchdown. And like I said, that happened at least 3 times. On the other side of the field, the Browns, they did have, like, 1 or 2 broken down defenses where the Chargers gave up a big pass, but it wasn't very frequent. What their issue is that the runs that they were doing, which, again, we expected this. We expected the Browns to run very effectively, to have some big chunk plays on the ground. But there were times where they just, like, couldn't get a tackle. Like, they couldn't even get a hand on people. A couple of the touchdowns that the Browns scored were, like, from 15, 20 yards out, where, like, Kareem Hunt would get the ball, and it looked like maybe they would tackle him or at least slow him down. Somebody else would get him, and it might be, like, a 5-6 yard gain. But nope. Either they wouldn't touch him, or they would try to, like, arm tackle him, or they would just, like, kind of bump him, and he would get these long runs, longer than expected and more than expected. You know, I was thinking maybe like 2 or 3 big touchdown scores, or very long, like, explosive plays on the run game, and I don't know how many they ended up having, but it was just like the Chargers could not stop them. And then there was, like I said, one of the broken down plays on the passing game for the Browns was with Njoku, where Baker kind of scrambles. He hits Njoku on, like, a little, I don't know, maybe like an 8-yard pass. And whoever was guarding him tries to tackle him and literally just, like, slides off of him. And Njoku runs in for, like, a 60-yard touchdown and just beats everybody in a foot race, which the guy's, like, 260. How fast is he? But, you know, either way, again, everything broke down in this one. The defense is just totally crapped out. And what we were planning on and hoping on, and what everything I had was saying, was that yes, the offenses were going to be effective, but they were going to be slow, consistent offenses that would end up, you know, possibly getting touchdowns and maybe sometimes having to settle for field goals, and it was going to end in the under 48.5. And what happened was that, yeah, the offenses were trying to be slow and consistent, you know, slow and steady, and the defenses just kept saying, nope, you know, forget the slow part, just keep scoring, so we want the ball back. And it was just all day with this. So they ended up going way over. I think the final total was like, 91 points or something like that. It was way over. So total wrong side on that one, just a bad read. So those are the 2 losses we had. On to the 2 wins. So the first one was the Cardinals minus 4.5. I actually even said when I was doing the algorithm or the Madden breakdown the last time, I had the Cardinals at exactly -7. That's the exact number that the algorithm was spitting out on both sides. Both the formulas we used were saying Cardinals -7, and I think I had told a few of you, or actually in the last video I even said that a lot of the sharps were taking 49ers +6, and that's why it had bumped it down, because it had gotten back, it had gotten all the way up to Cardinals +6, or I'm sorry, Cardinals -6, and immediately came back down to Cardinals -5, and it kind of kept wavering at that point. Those sharps didn't hit. They didn't cash, because the 49ers ended up losing by 7. But if you listen to me, and what I was saying was to tease that. If you could get the 49ers +5, so you would tease it to the 11, then that did cash, depending on whatever the second leg of your tease was. But at least that particular leg did cash. And so that worked out, and the straight play, of course, worked out. On that one, it was a much lower scoring game than we expected. The 49ers just really weren't effective with Trey Lance, at least not to begin with. I think it took them like a full half to really get like comfortable. They weren't using Trey Sermon. Just really weren't moving the ball very effectively, and I think the Cardinals kind of took their foot off the gas, and they really weren't doing too well either until they were forced to score, and it seemed like the Cardinals were just in cruise control until the 49ers finally put up a score, and they said, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that too. They come back and score and get the win by 7. Again, the handicapping was decent in that one, but I think that game also went kind of to a different script than everybody was expecting. Next, so was a tease that we also hit, and that was the Broncos Steelers under 47. This one did kind of, if you were watching it, did kind of have you on, pins and needles here because of the way that it started. So Deontay Johnson, first of all, gets this game going with a 50-yard touchdown, which, I mean, he hadn't. I don't think he had done that yet this year. Obviously, that's always a threat, but everybody else was, not expecting it. So they get going, and it just seemed like not a lot of touchdowns, but big long scores when they were scoring. And at the end of this game here, it's 27-19, and the Broncos had pretty much done what we thought they were going to do. Be a slow offense, consistent offense, kind of play it safe, let Teddy just manage the game, and be in a position to win coming down the stretch. And they were not necessarily in a position to win, but at least to tie the game, down by 8 points. And I think they were like on their 10-yard line with a few seconds to go. Just couldn't get the ball in, and they end up losing. Now, the good thing for us was that they didn't get that touchdown, because literally we won this bet by 1 point. It ended up at 46. So if you didn't tease this game, you ended up losing it. But secondly, the Broncos they happened to be in a position where a field goal did them nothing. So we kind of lucked out in the sense that they weren't going to settle for anything less than a touchdown, and so they were forced to go for this touchdown that they just couldn't punch in, where the Broncos are much more apt to take field goals at that range just because they don't have a high-scoring offense, and a lot of times they try to win with a very safe approach where they're going to put up 20 points maybe, but they're going to try and hold you to 17. So anyways, we get the win on that one. I get the cover on that one. The other side of that tease was the Giants at Cowboys. Cowboys -1. Now, this game, I thought that the Giants were going to cover the full spread, which was 7.5 at certain points throughout the week. And I really think that they still could have had the chance to do that. But if you didn't watch this game, by halftime, they were already down Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Mike Glennon actually came in and did decently. He wasn't great. I think he's a lot more conservative than Daniel Jones, but he was okay. He kind of kept the trains, on time, kept them moving, but they just really couldn't get a whole lot going. I think what's his name, Kadarius Toney was having like a great game because Glennon was just like force feeding the guy, but they really just couldn't do anything once their 2-star players went down, and I think even Kenny Golladay went down at some point throughout this game, and they just, at that point, their offense really just started petering out, and they were only scoring 13 points for them, better part of this game, and the Cowboys kind of let up and gave them a fourth quarter touchdown to make it, I guess, closer than what it looked like on the scoreboards, but 44-20 didn't even really look that close. But going into the half and really even into the third quarter, the game was a lot closer. I think the game at the third quarter, or at the end of the third quarter, was like Cowboys by like 7, something around there. So while I do think the tease in this case didn't necessarily play out because then the Cowboys end up winning by 24, so you would have won either way. I think it's a lot easier to say that now than it was going into the game, where if everybody stays healthy, it's very possible the Giants do cover a 7.5 point spread. So those are the two that we won. This last one, it really depends on your book. So my book considered this a push. Yours may have thought differently. But the first leg was Patriots -3 at the Texans. Patriots did end up winning by exactly 3. So we pushed on that leg of it. Next one was the Bills at Chiefs. Bills at Chiefs over 50.5. Worked out for us because, obviously it did go over 50.5, but the rain delay really messed things up. This rain delay here at halftime, it just, if nothing else, just making the field wet really slowed down the scoring. The over-under before the game, I think, ended up at like 57 right at kickoff. And so if you got the over, even at that point, you still covered just barely. But before the half, it looked like both of these offenses were just moving. No problems, no issues, just move, consistent scoring. And then we hit that delay, we hit the rain, we hit the wet field, and we have an injury with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and the Chiefs just looked like they really couldn't get anything else going on at all. The Bills kept playing right on through it, and I think the Bills were just more determined really to come out with that win. They were going to win come hell or high water. And if you remember the beginning of last week, I was saying if the Bills were going to blitz a lot in this game, they were going to lose. And if they didn't blitz, but they were still able to get pressure on Mahomes, they would be able to at least be in a spot to win this game. And that's exactly what happened. So I noticed that in the first quarter. I didn't live bet it just because I was like, you know what, I'm not chasing anything else for today. I'm just going to kind of lay off and watch the game. But if you watch that first half, the Bills were not really drawing up a lot of blitzes against Mahomes. They were just putting 4 down, letting them get to him, let him maybe move him off the spot, and kind of keeping everything in front of them as far as the defense is concerned. And it worked out for them. The Chiefs weren't able to do anything. Now, again, in that second half, maybe it goes a little bit different without any weather concerns. But either way, the Bills end up getting the win. We end up getting the over. I get the push as far as my book is concerned, so it goes 2-2-1. If you were lucky enough to be at a book that considers that a win, or they pay you like half credit or whatever the case is, then you got a win there. And I know some books actually consider that a loss because of the push. So that particular one is really just going to go by whatever book you are using. I'm personally going to count it as a push because that's how I got it graded. So it was 2-2-1. That's how the official picks go. If you listened to my last video on Friday and you saw the Saints money line pick and why I was picking them, that one did hit. So that actually kept me up for the week, but I'm not going to count that in the official picks. So the official picks for this week are going to go 2-2-1. As for this week, a couple of picks I have already made and then some others that I'm looking at. So first here, the ones that have been made right now. Cowboys -3 at the Patriots. That's the first one. Next, Broncos Raiders under 44.5. That is for a half unit. And I'll tell you why here in just a second. And the next was the Bucs and the Raiders both being teased. So it teases the Bucs to, well, it's a -0.5 point right now. And the Raiders are up to +9 against the Broncos. And I believe those are the only 3 that you actually have in the books right this second. Sorry, I forgot. We also have the Panthers money line. So that's going to be our 4th pick. Panthers money line is another half unit play, and I'll get into that here in just a second as well. As far as the Cowboys Patriots, though, let's go over that first, and then we will take it from there. Give me 1 second to move the screen around. All right, so Cowboys Patriots. This is the Madden algorithm has the Cowboys as really like almost 12-point favorites in this one. So to get them with only 3 is obviously a huge discrepancy. The Cowboys have been great at covering spreads. I think, they're 5-0 now at covering the spread. So that's always a good stream. Now, I will tell you that is one thing I'm also concerned with, though, because I'm not the only one that knows that. Everybody's been watching the Cowboys have a great season, cover the spreads. So I do think you're going to see maybe some buying on the other side, or Vegas kind of trying to alter some of these lines to incentivize you to either buy with the Cowboys or against them. But at the -3, when Madden has them as almost 12-point favorites, I could not pass that up. Aside from that, though, my personal grading algorithm, and again, the grading algorithm does not have updated DVOA, field position, or EDSR just yet because those numbers won't come out until tomorrow. But I have got to assume that the Patriots, if anything, stayed the same, if not worse, based off their performance from this past week, based on DVOA and all the other numbers I just went over. The Cowboys, again, probably the opposite of that. They at least stayed the same, if didn't get better, based off of the performance they put together this past Sunday. One thing I'm noticing about the Cowboys is that they keep shooting themselves in the foot, and theirs isn't so many penalties, like the Patriots had last week. Theirs is more like turnovers. They just little things they cannot get down, like little fumbles, mishandling the snap, just like bad turnovers at bad times. It was one that they had on like the goal line last week, and little things like that can sometimes be overcome, but it doesn't put you in a good spot. And if you have a big spread, it's really going to hurt you. This week, I think we get really lucky to only have a 3-point spread with this one. But either way, the grading algorithm with coaching grading does have the Cowboys by 5. And I think if you want to round this to the key number, it would be like a 27 or a 24. So it's at least 3, but probably more like a 6-point favorite. If you look at the average scoring, it also has the Cowboys as at least a 3-point favorite. And again, I think this is probably a little bit skewed because of strength of schedule. The Cowboys have had the 16th easiest strength of schedule. So they're like literally dead middle. Patriots have had the 8th easiest strength of schedule, so they have had the easier road to get here, and still have not really looked as good. One thing about the Cowboys that has consistently impressed me is Kellen Moore's play calling. He's drawn up plays both in Week 5 and in Week 4 that I had never really seen before, that were very surprising, called at like the perfect time to get a well-needed first down or keep the chains moving and just kind of keep them ahead of the sticks. And I think things like that are going to really put the Patriots in a bad spot, because if the Patriots play like they did last week, and like they have been pretty much every week so far except for that Buccaneers game where they're having bad penalties and just not able to get off the field on defense, it's going to put some pressure on them to have to do something more. And if they're taking deep shots downfield, there is a chance that Trayvon Diggs can get another interception this week. I think he's up to like 6 already for the year. Now, on the Patriots side of the ball, their offense, they're down 4 offensive linemen. They may get them back this week. I don't think they're going to get all 4 of them back, but they may get 1, 2, 3 of them back. And even with that, I think the Cowboys are still going to be able to play effectively here, mainly because they're going to still be able to get pressure on Mac Jones. And the Patriots play so conservatively, just trying to maybe keep Mac Jones out of trouble, that they have a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of tight end play like Hunter Henry, and that's all fine except for when you're playing a team that has really good linebackers. The Patriots still have the advantage at tight end over the Cowboys linebackers, but if you have a guy like Micah Parsons guarding really either Hunter Henry or Jonnu, he has a better matchup than most linebackers out there. He's just really athletic. Also though, the secondary play of the Cowboys so far has been, they do get burned on some plays, but if you don't have a lot of great wide receiver depth and the wide receivers that take advantage of that, there's really not a lot you can do about it. There's not a lot you can do to take advantage of it. Just like last week, the Buccaneers should have been, you can get them at corner because they are so weak at corner, but the Patriots just couldn't do anything. 2 weeks ago, Patriots just couldn't do anything against them because they don't have the weapons to take advantage of that. So I don't see a way that the Patriots really stay in this game other than by really solid defense and forcing the Cowboys into bad spots and into turnovers and letting Mac Jones play a very slow paced kind of management style kind of game. But again, either way, I think the Cowboys get this one by at least 3 and probably more by 7 or 10. We'll know for sure. I'll have a better estimate after we update the numbers, but I'm going to say 10 for right now. The Cowboys probably win this game by 10. So at -3, I'm all over it. One other one here I want to go over, and we'll go over the others throughout the week. I'm trying to keep these videos from being 45 minutes anymore, guys. So I'm only going to go over 2 of the picks today, and one of them is the Cowboys. Obviously, that one's already been picked. The Vikings Panthers, I could tell you I don't have a Madden workup for that one, and that is just a spot play, and that's something that we have talked about last week. The Vikings are 0-16-1 against winning teams outdoors. Panthers are a winning team. They play outdoors. The Panthers defense, even though they have had the 2nd easiest strength of schedule, the Panthers defense just looks like it's for real. It looks like it's maybe the offense that's going to hold them back more than anything. The defense has been able to kind of stand the test, even against weaker opponents. That defense should still show up at least somewhat. Now, the Vikings offense has not looked so good. They do have better players. They have good talent on the field. But with Justin Jefferson not being able to do as much as a lot of us expected, he's doing good, but he's not doing what we thought he was going to do this year in his 2nd year in the league. I think the Panthers have the weapons to not shut them down, but to at least slow that team down. And if they can play with Christian McCaffrey, assuming he comes back, I think the Panthers can get this one done. I don't know if they're going to cover. The spread is 2, so I'm not saying it's impossible, obviously, but I feel more comfortable with that money line pick. That's just a quick rundown on that one. The Bucs Eagles, again, this one I don't have a Madden workup for this one, so we won't really be able to talk too much about that one. But I do believe the Bucs end up covering. They win this game. The Eagles just have not shown me enough on offense. Their defense has so many issues in the secondary, and that's really what this play is about. the Eagles just have no secondary to speak of, and because of that, the Bucs' strength is their receivers, and if they have Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin all healthy, I think Tom Brady is going to pick those guys apart, and it's probably not going to be close. You probably could just take the -7, but since they're playing in Philly, and Philly does have some weapons, and I think they pass a lot, and the Buccaneers still have some issues with the secondary, I think the Eagles could at least backdoor this one, possibly keep it close, but it's probably more of a backdoor issue that I'm concerned with. So that's why I'm teasing it down to Bucs -1. Raiders +9. I'm going to show it to you, but again, I'm not going to go into a lot of depth with this one. Broncos have had the 4th easiest strength of schedule so far. The Raiders have had the 23rd. Madden has this one as really the Broncos as like a 1-point favorite. The grading algorithm has the Raiders as a 1-point favorite. And realistically, it's either 1 or 3 because this could easily be 24-27, somewhere along those lines. But let's just say a 1-point favorite. And I haven't worked up the rest of it yet. I will either tonight or tomorrow. But you're probably looking at like a 1 to 3 point game. What I'm more concerned with here, though, is, and the reason I'm teasing it, is that the over-under in this game is, I believe, 40.5, something around there. Sorry, it is 44. My bad, I was a couple points off there. So it's at 44, but it is a 3-point spread. So the 3 points is, in line with my algorithms and expectations. But the over-under 44, like I said, the Broncos, if they're winning, they're going to win in like a 17-14 kind of game with 20-14, 20-17 kind of game. That's the way the Broncos win. So if they do win this game and they cover, that's what's going to happen. The Raiders, even when they win, they instantly take their foot off the gas as soon as they're up on the scoreboard. So if they win, it's going to be like a 24-20 kind of game, something around there. It's not going to be a huge, or I doubt it's going to be a very huge blowout game. Also, though, the Raiders struggle against good defenses like the Broncos, so I don't see them putting up a lot of points. I believe this game is going to be like a 20-14, 20-17 kind of game, regardless of which team wins. So the under might be a way I'm looking here, but because I'm not sure about the score, let's say it is 24-27, which I don't think that's going to be it, but let's say it's even 21-24, that would put you over and you end up losing that. So I'm not really too quick to pull the trigger on that one, but I am a lot faster to tease the Raiders up to 9 because it's going to give you the full 3, the 6, and the 7. And in a low-scoring game, 9 points is a lot of points. If you're looking at, almost 20%, that's a pretty big handicap there. And I don't see the Broncos really beating anybody by that much, at least not anybody that's worth a damn. So that's why I'm teasing that part of it. 20%. So you're going to get 20% of the total score by teasing them up to 9. So that's why I'm not doing that one. So last one here, and this is the one I really did want to go in depth. You know what? I'm sorry, guys. One last thing I just want to mention on this one. The kind of the changing of the season. So I told you last week that around this time is when all the algorithms start hitting. The books, they have their own algorithms. They have stuff start going, and you see them kind of shifting lines and shifting things. More importantly, the coaches in the NFL have their own game plans, and they're going off of what their opponents have put on tape and what they're expecting to see from their opponents. And so you see some changes being done. One thing that you should have noticed this week, guys, is that a lot of the overs were hitting. So up to last week, the unders had really been the play. I think the unders had gone like 60% for the year. Last week there were a lot of overs. As of right now, we're at about 47-point average for the week, which is a little bit higher than, again, it's about middle of what we've seen the last 2 years. But we still have a game tonight that I think could sneakily be a higher scoring game and go over like the 46 that the over-under is at. But the point of all this is that we're starting to see the shift. It's going away from unders and to overs. So while I've been very heavy on taking unders up till now, from here on out I'm probably going to be a little more hesitant with the unders and really take into consideration the two teams and kind of where maybe some defensive breakdowns could come in that could give us the over, because all it takes is like 2 broken plays usually to throw off the algorithm and throw off our expectations. So just keep that in mind, especially as you're looking at the totals this week. But let's get into this last game here. Texans Colts. There is no line out for this one yet, but I just know I am really looking at the Colts, and I'm looking at the Colts really -7 or better. The Madden has them as about 9.5-point favorites. The grading algorithm has them as like 4-point favorites, but again, these numbers aren't totally accurate yet, and I really don't think this is indicative of the teams, because if you'll notice, the Colts have had the hardest schedule to date. They have played the hardest teams in the NFL, or the hardest schedule so far in the NFL, and I think that is really skewing all of these numbers, from the DVOA to their EDSR to everything. Texans have not had an easy schedule either, but they have had it a little bit easier than the Colts, and they have had a lot of teams where they were maybe like lower scoring teams, like last week with the Patriots, like with the Jaguars in week 1, and that is kind of more in line with the way they want to play. So I don't think that that's as big of an issue when we're trying to critique the Texans as it is with the Colts. But a few things I have noticed on this one. So first of all, this is probably going to be, this is really not, the labels on these here are backwards. So I have it like 24-14 for the Colts, not the Texans. But with all of that said, I've looked a little bit more into their tendencies rather than just looking at their players. The players, again, give us like a 9-point favorite, but the EDSRs and all other stuff, since that is kind of skewed due to the strength of schedule, I went a little bit deeper, and we're going to go into tendencies here. So the Colts, they love to pass short middle the first down of the game when they do pass, and when they get into second and third down, they like to pass short right. When they do that, though, the Texans allow 71% completions to the short middle on first down and 73% completion to short right on second and third downs, meaning that you might not always get the conversion into first down, but you should have a lot of completed passes, which at least sets you up to get conversions, or at least to have successful plays and get you, kind of keep you ahead of the sticks. Also, though, they do allow a higher passer rating to the short right. So while the passer rating might be a little bit lower going down the middle, when the Colts pass to the short right, you're looking at about a 95 passer rating for Carson Wentz, or at least that's what we should be expecting. And if we can get that from him, they should be in a good position to win this game. But more importantly, to really keep everything on track, stay ahead of the sticks, and kind of keep the the Texans offense off the field. Next, though, the Colts run off a left tackle or just a sweep left the majority of the time, and that's actually where they're best at running. They average 6.4 yards per carry and have had 5 of their 6 explosive runs coming from those directions. Now, they also do average 4.3 yards per carry behind the right guard. If you listen to like Christopher Harris or anything like that, you know that yards per carry is not a great stat. It's not very sticky, and it really is dependent on the defense and how much they're going to give you. But if we know that the offense is going to try and run behind these particular players because they think that's their best chance and that's the best direction, we need to take note of that. So the Colts are going to be trying to run left, or they're going to be trying to run up the butt of their right guard, which is where they have had their one other explosive running play this year. The Texans just so happen to allow 5.3 yards per carry behind when the other opponent is going off the left tackle, and a 6.1 yard per carry when the opponent is running to the left sweep, which is like to your left receivers. Way above average. They are basically letting you get, a successful play almost every time you run those directions. But aside from that, they're also averaging a 6.1 yard per carry behind the right guard. So they've given up 4 explosive plays to runs off of that right guard. So again, while the yards per carry is not really sticky and it's not necessarily indicative of future performance, it does tell us that the Texans are struggling to stop the runs at those plays, and that the players in those positions and the coaching and the defensive call playing and scheme is not really well equipped to stop runs in those directions, and the players there may be lacking in the run stopping abilities. So we should see a Colts run game do very, very well, because they're going to be running exactly where the Texans do not want the opponent to run to, And they're not going to have to change anything up. This is just the way that they regularly play. The way that Frank Reich usually likes to go is going to be successful. The Colts also have a 57% success rate behind the left tackle and a 78% success rate behind the right guard. They are successful more than 50% of the time. The Texans give up most of the success to those directions. All of this leads to me believing the Colts will have control of this game really from the first quarter on. And it may be a low-scoring first quarter unless the Texans can, string together a good opening drive like they did last week, which, again, was really a lot of the Patriots' fault kind of for giving them that first drive. But at the end of the day, I think the Colts come out here, they probably take a lead to begin with and never look back. This is one of those games I think the Colts are going to be just dominating and in control from the kickoff. The Texans, on the other hand, just look at what they do. They like to go short right on first down, and then they like to go short left on third down. The Colts allow 75% completion to both of those directions on those particular downs. And again, this is not to say, hey, look, this is exactly where they're going to pass every single time. This is just us looking for more of a pattern and to know kind of what to expect and how well the other team is at guarding those particular plays that we expect to see throughout the game. So the Colts also allow 95 passer rating in those directions. So that's not great because that's really what the Texans are going to allow as well. So it's possible that the Texans do get these great drives going where they are not super quick scoring drives and not like a high-powered, potent offense, but it's just a drive that lingers and lingers and lingers. And if you watch last week's game, you know that sometimes they'll have a scoring drive that lasts like 7 minutes. So you're looking at like half the damn quarter where the Texans have the ball, the other team is not on the field, the clock just keeps on running, so it's a slow-paced game as far as scores are concerned, but they're controlling it just with their time of possession. The Colts, though, I think will be able to kind of stymie some of that because, again, keep in mind that all of these passer ratings and completions we have to look at them through the lens of they have played the toughest schedule so far to date. I don't think the Texans are going to be able to hold up as well as the other opponents. Tonight they're going to play the Ravens, but they have already played the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Titans. And while the Titans maybe aren't the best offense necessarily, or they haven't looked like it lately, keep in mind that when they did play this Colts team, they had Julio Jones healthy, A.J. Brown healthy, Derrick Henry was running crazy on everybody. And the Texans don't have that. They don't have any of those weapons. They definitely don't have Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. So these numbers here, keep that in mind, and I think you'll agree we're probably going to see a lower completion percentage as well as a lower passing rating when it comes to Davis Mills versus somebody like Russell Wilson. Next, so the Texans like to run behind their center or off their right guard. They average about 2.8 to 3.6 yards per carry, and 3 out of their 4 explosive runs have come from those directions. The Colts, on the other hand, on their defensive side, only allow 2.4 yards behind center and 2.8 yards behind the right guard, and they have not given up one explosive play to either of those directions. Lastly, though, Laramie Tunsil, their left tackle, was injured in the last game for the Texans, and apparently he has some sort of thumb injury. If he can go, great, and the Madden algorithm has him playing in this game. Now, that's another thing. If he does play, I'm assuming he'll be okay because he was in there on special teams plays this past week, even after the injury, so he can probably go. But there's something going to be messing with his thumb, and that could impact, especially if he can't, when you're inside, you're not supposed to hold, obviously, but they do. So when people get inside, is he going to be able to hold that block as long as he usually can? If he cannot, or if he just cannot play at all, that's going to be a big difference in the game. It's going to hurt the Texans' run game and their pass blocking, and the Colts should immediately key in on that, and they're going to blitz the shit out of that left tackle, whoever the hell they put back there. But all of that said, the Texans have a 38% success rate when they run behind the center, which is actually their most successful place to run, and the Colts look to shut that down. They look to be really good at that, only allowing the 2.4 yards per carry. The Colts have been playing at 3-4, but they've been really successful at stopping the run. So all of that is to say, again, I don't think the Colts are going to allow very much on the ground through this Texans team, and a Texans team that likes to be conservative and kind of wait for you to make mistakes and make you get penalties and make you lose the game, rather than them go out and win it. That kind of play is not going to get this game done. They're not going to be able to do that against the Colts, who have a kind of a similar, style in running the ball and being like a more slow-paced offense, but they have the better coach, they have the better talent, they have the better they've been tested, I guess, better than the Texans have. So the Colts should win this game, and they should win it going away. For right now, again, I'm saying 7 points. The spread has it at about 9.5 as far as Madden is concerned. I'm not sure what the line's going to come out as, and because the Texans, held their own against the Patriots, you're probably going to have a lower kind of spread, especially if the Colts just have their ass handed to them tonight, which, for us, hopefully they will. I think you might see like Colts -3. And if that's the case, guys, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to pound the shit out of that line as soon as it comes out. I'm clicking, double clicking, I'm going to take out a small loan, click on it again. Fade me if you want, don't listen to me if you want, because I was thinking the same thing about the Browns Chargers under last week. And I happen to know that a few other people in the betting space and some other, some guys that are in like syndicates and sharp betting and stuff like that, they were also on that under with me, and it didn't work out for us. So the books got a good payday on that one, but we're going to look to take that money back this week with the Colts. So that's the pick I'm waiting for, guys. That line will probably come out late tonight after the game or early Monday morning. So again, be on the lookout for that. But thank you again. Hopefully you learned something here. Hopefully you found all the information helpful. If there's anything else you have questions with, something I can help you with, please leave it in the comments below. I really love hearing your guys' picks and takes on different games and things like that. So let me know if you have something you'd like to say and a pick you'd like to go over, something you maybe just want me to weigh in on for you. Put it in the comments below. I know last week somebody asked me if I thought the Bills were going to go over like 12 in the first half, and I had them at like 14 to 17 for the first half. I think they actually ended up at 20. So whoever that was, I hope that you put in that play because you would have ended up winning that one. But thanks again, guys. Have a great day.